Welcome back to the second season of To Lose the Veil. I'm Leslie and I am your host.
I'm Bonnie.
Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, also known as Soli.
Hello, this is Gene.
I'm Brianda, aka Sole.
Who taught you about sex? Well, it definitely wasn't my parents who taught me about sex. Primarily my peers. I remember when I was, when we first got stationed down, I think I told Leslie this story. When we first got stationed down in Florida, we didn't have military housing right away. So my father had found this lady who had two children who had a room. And until we got the housing, we stayed in that little room. I mean, we had access to the bathroom and the kitchen, all that stuff. But when we just wanted to go to sleep, we all had to go into that room. I'll never forget, she had a little boy named Carrington. And so one day, I don't know, but one day we were on the floor and we had a little blanket and he wanted to kind of play with me. And we were little. I mean, we must have been about 7 or 8,
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, but still, I didn't know that much about it. But when I got with some girls, I mean, they would talk about it and things like that. So I really would have to say it was that. But the thing was, what you were saying earlier, the taboo was, not to get pregnant. That was a taboo and stuff like that. And for me, talking about pleasure, I didn't even know what the orgasm thing was until when I got married. One night we had gone out and I had gotten drunk, and I woke up and he was dizzy. And I woke up and I said, "Well, I'm going with you." Next thing you know, this thing went boom, 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 boom. And I was like, that was how I figured out what an orgasm was.
Wow.
It wasn't really anything that anybody told me. It was through the experience of it. When you say what were the key messages, what do you mean by that?
Well, like my mother said, you naughty, naughty, naughty. So that's a key message because that tells me that sex is naughty. That's a key message that I got when I was 18. I probably got it earlier than that, but that's where it came out. So were there any messages by their telling you about it or not telling you about it that kind of,
Right. Well, they didn't tell me too much, but one of the things that was pretty much taught at that time, although people didn't really practice it, it was okay for boys to go out and have sex, but girls, you want to be a virgin when you get married. That we weren't supposed to have no sex, but people people I hung out with really didn't conform to that. I imagine there were some girls who may have kept themselves pure, but that wasn't me. I did what I did.
Oh yeah, that wasn't me either.
Yeah, but the only thing was, the guy, like very seldom you meet guys at that young age who really knew what to do for you when they did have sex. You'd be getting all excited and then you'd be like, big bang bang. You're like, what happened? Because I was one of those girls that, it took a little while to get me there, and it's most young guys couldn't hang out that long,
Because it wasn't about you.
It
That's
was about
the difference. It was
you
about
didn't get
them.
it? Oh, okay, I'm sorry about that.
It was about them.
Yeah,
But I do have to say, I've had some really, like my first few lovers were very caring and very sensual. So, and then later, after the fact, years later, I'm running into this stuff that's like, oh, you really kidding me with this crap? I don't think so. So yeah, but I have to say I was pretty lucky with that because what I found out later, if I had been indoctrinated into that crap, it never would have worked. Yeah. What were the messages? Let's see. Well, I told you the one with my mom that it was naughty. Sex was naughty. Sex was not something that good girls did. I can also remember getting beat because I called the guy on the phone.
By your mom? Oh, wow.
Yeah, because that wasn't ladylike and you shouldn't be doing that, So I could remember being, I don't want to say, did I get beat or chastised and yelled at? I know that she didn't like that crap.
It felt like a beating.
Yes, how about that?
Verbal
It did.
beating.
It felt like a beating at the end of the day because I called some guy on the phone. That was like really intense, And I was raised to be a good girl. I was raised in that gender.
Were you a good girl?
I was up until I turned 18. And they said, did you do naughty? But I did have those experiences like you did.
Right.
With these young little, little boys want to fill you up over there and, playing with yourself in kindergarten and having friends that are saying, ooh, let me see, those kinds of things. Which, is so natural.
Right.
It is very natural,
And yet we don't even know how to care about it or how to, well, I won't say we, but we're coming to a stage where that kind of information has to be fostered in such a way that children don't
feel shame
and traumatized by that, because it's a natural part. You can't turn around and say if you masturbate, you're going to go blind.
Yeah.
You can't say those things anymore. And you can say things like, well, rather than go out and find a guy, let me show you how to masturbate. Let's try this because you need to experience. What happened to that conversation? Is there space now for that conversation? So this way we can make sure you don't become pregnant. This way you may be a little bit too young. These are places that we could go now, Yeah. Yeah, you gotta think about that.
Wouldn't that have been something if your mother said, okay, let's show you how to do this.
I just got a memory from this book that I bought. I don't know. I don't remember where I got the book from, but that was how I learned. It was a book. Yeah. It wasn't. It wasn't anything else. My mother. I think I said this another time when we met up. That my mother got us a book. My older sister and I. She got us a book. It's called What's Happening to Me. But what's funny is that even from the book, I still couldn't figure out my whole anatomy. Like it still took me a really long time to figure out where the clit was. I was still kind of like, so where? Which part of this whole thing is it again? Like it took me, like the book still didn't clearly illustrate, at least not for me. I didn't get it. But I will say that my mom was very supportive as far as she didn't do the whole like sex is bad thing,
I didn't do that with my daughter.
When we got our periods, she made a joke with, it was like her ongoing joke whenever my sister, myself, or like one of our female cousins got their period. She was like, all right, no more boys jumping on the bed. Like, like the whole play on no more monkeys. Right. So that was her way of saying like, you can have babies now that you have your period. Right. Don't try any funny shit. But she was also very good about saying like the consequences, but not on a scared straight thing, but just saying like this is what comes with this now. Like these are the responsibilities that you have. And she was just very clear about it, and saying like there's nothing wrong with masturbating if you feel like that's what you need to do. I really much prefer that you do that than have sex, at such a young age. So she was just very kind of like matter of fact and chill and just like letting us know like, all right, But as far as me knowing my body, it still took me a minute to know my body, even with those talks in that book. Right. And funny enough, it was because of religion. So I learned that sex out of marriage is bad from religion. And so for me, I was like, okay, well, any kind of sexual act before you're married is bad because that's the message I got from the teachings from school and everything else. So I was just like, all right. So then I felt bad, even though my mother told me it's okay to masturbate. I still felt bad because I got a conflicting message from my religion at the time. Yes. And so I was kind of like, all right, well, but I feel a certain way anyway, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this. But for a long time, I felt shame around that for a very long time. Yeah. And then one day, I'm sure through just like having a lot of, I think through having a lot of conversations with my friends and just finding out like what we had in common and everything else, especially in high school, I think is when that started shifting for me, high school, college. Then I started releasing that shame towards it. In college, I didn't go to church as often, but I was still very much a person that like, that was my only, that was like really the only perspective I had on like my connection to spirit, to spirit, was through Christianity, through Catholicism. Like, but that was also when I started questioning it in high school and college. So in me unlearning, in me losing my religion, I started learning my body, and then slowly but surely releasing that shame centered around giving myself pleasure. So that now as an adult, I'm like, like I'm like, this is my body, like, hey, but it took me a minute to get there.
It's what I find so interesting is the thing that you said about the shame, because those are the feelings that are still impacted in women in many different places and areas and ages. The shame behind, having sex, not being married, or the shame behind, masturbating. There's so and all that stuff is stuck, in here. And not only that, but it's generations of that, because your DNA and your mom's DNA is the same DNA. So whatever guilt and shame that she came in with, there's some of that still in you. So when I think about the divine feminine and us arising, those are the places that need to be freed up. Those nuances, those places of shame, those places of guilt that we still haven't touched. But there's a lot of it. Even if you go back to slave trade, even if you go back to the rape and all those things, all that stuff is still stuck in our wounds, in our minds, in our DNA. That in order to really open up and allow the divine feminine aspect of it, we have to really let go of some of that stuff.
To me, like letting go of the idea of sinning,
yes,
has helped me tremendously.
I'm sure it has. There is no such thing.
There is no, as far as I'm concerned.
I googled the word sin, and it was such a fascinating definition of it. The definition they said of sin was something to the effect of, I'm going to try to see if I can find it, but it was something to the effect of that when you don't do what your heart desires, then that's the sin.
I like that.
Yes, I like it too. Okay, I can live with this. It was so profound. It was like, I want to Google it, but continue.
What we learned was sin was just missing the mark.
Exactly.
Is that the same thing? Missing the mark? Maybe that's the same thing. But you miss the mark when you don't. But when you don't go after your desires, you miss the mark. Yes.
Yeah.
Right, but I didn't like that because when I was in church, like a worthless sinner.
Right.
Like you're already worthless and you're already a sinner unless you accept Jesus Christ as your personal Savior and Lord. I mean.
Yeah.
They put all that other stuff
like,
to it.
Missing the mark means like you're wrong, you're doing it wrong, this is wrong, everything's wrong. Like that's what I mean. Like so when I let go of that and I didn't feel so wrong in all these things that I was doing that felt all right to me,
So now from the Greek perspective, in ancient Greek thought, sin was looked upon as, in essence, a failure on the part of a person to achieve his true self-expression and preserve his due relationship to the rest of the universe.
And to preserve his what?
His relation to his due relation to the rest of the universe. So now, in a real broad sense, when we get that we are aspects of God, looking at and working from, we can't do anything without. So every thought that we have comes from, and we don't honor the thought, then what are we doing? It's our relationship. We're missing the mark, you know?
But some of your thoughts come from the ego, don't it? Because where do you get the negative stuff from?
Yeah.
Some of them.
But that's beautiful. I've
Isn't
never
that-
I've never heard that before.
Right,
That's-
me either.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
That's Greek. Failure on the part of a person to achieve his true self-expression and to preserve his due relation to the rest of the universe.
Yeah. I learned that a sin is going against the 10 Commandments and a whole bunch of other stuff.
And what's going to actually How about when you had to go to hell?
Yeah.
That was one of the biggest things I used to think about.
Yeah.
Hell, what is, you know?
Yeah.
Because, in most Christian churches, they talk about, you only came here once.
Yeah.
See, now I never believed that.
Same, me neither.
Okay.
I always believed in reincarnate. And I tried to discuss that, I told Leslie, I tried to discuss that with my pastor one time. Because in the Bible, Jesus asked the disciples who John the Baptist was. And they called out his name, and he said he was Elijah. My pastor said, well, no, he just meant he had a spirit like Elijah. Yeah. So my thing was, you had to get it right in this lifetime. And how could you, in one lifetime, get it all right so you could go to heaven? And if you didn't get it all right, boom, you was going.
Hell, he was a sinner in
Yeah.
hell. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. Wow, this is so much fun.
I'm having a lot of fun. Yeah.
This is so much fun. So we're gonna end right here. We got more stuff to do. This is about taking the divine feminine to the place that she needs to go. This is about healing the divine feminine. It's about knowing that you are in fact connected to God. If you don't know that, you're gonna know it from here. And if we want you to feel it, we want you to vibrate it in your body. It's amazing. Just the energy and the power of God existing in your body is palpable. You can feel it, and that's where we're going. Okay, good night. Say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yay.
Good morning.
Right, wherever you are.
Good afternoon.
Oh, no.